In the summer of 1940, the world watched in horror as the German blitzkrieg crushed France in just 6 weeks. For the United States, still reeling from the Great Depression and protected by 2 oceans, it was a terrifying wake-up call. The American Army was catastrophically unprepared for this new kind of mechanized warfare. Its main light tank, the M2, was a relic, armed with machine guns and thin armor. It was utterly obsolete. As reports flooded in from military observers in Europe, a wave of panic and urgency swept through the U.S. Ordnance Department. America needed a new light tank, and it needed it immediately. The requirements were simple. Take the existing M2 chassis, slap on thicker armor, and install a gun that could actually kill another tank. The result of this desperate scramble was the light tank M3. It was a compromise, a stopgap, a machine born of necessity. But this little tank would go on to do something no other tank of the war could claim. It would fight for every major Allied power, on every major front, from the deserts of Africa and the jungles of the Pacific to the frozen steppes of the Eastern Front. This is the story of the M3 Stuart, the tough, reliable, and utterly essential little tank that was everywhere the Allies needed it to be. The design of the M3 Stuart, finalized in early 1941, was a direct response to the lessons of the fall of France. The new tank was a significant upgrade over its predecessor. Its frontal armor was thickened to 38 millimeters, and the turret was even thicker, making it largely immune to the 20 millimeter and 37 millimeter anti-tank guns of the early war period. Its main weapon was the 37 millimeter M5 gun, a capable cannon that could penetrate the armor of the Panzer IIIs and IVs it was expected to face. But the Stuart's most important feature, the one that would define its entire service life, was its engine. It was powered by a Continental radial aircraft engine. This gave the tank incredible speed, over 35 miles per hour on roads, and even more importantly, it was exceptionally reliable. A stark contrast to the temperamental engines of many early war European designs. However, even before America entered the war, the M3 would make its combat debut under a different flag. In the summer of 1941, with its own tank production struggling, Great Britain desperately needed armor to fight Rommel's Afrika Korps in the North African desert. The first shipments of the new American M3 light tanks began to arrive, and the British were immediately impressed. Compared to their own undergunned and mechanically troubled Crusader tanks, the M3 was a revelation. It was fast, agile, and above all, it was reliable. It didn't break down constantly in the harsh desert conditions. British crews were so pleased with the tank's performance that they affectionately nicknamed it the Honey, because it was a honey of a tank. The Stuart first saw combat in November 1941 during Operation Crusader. In tank versus tank combat, its weaknesses quickly became apparent. Its 37 millimeter gun, while adequate, lacked the range of the German cannons, and its high profile made it an easy target. But its speed and reliability allowed British commanders to use it for flanking maneuvers and reconnaissance, roles where it excelled. The Honey proved that American industry could produce a good, tough, and dependable fighting machine. A year later, on the other side of the world, the M3 Stuart would prove its worth in a completely different kind of war. When the U.S. Army and Marine Corps landed on Guadalcanal in 1942, they brought the Stuart with them. In the jungles of the Pacific, the Stuart's small size and lightweight, once a vulnerability in the desert, became a critical advantage. It could navigate narrow jungle trails and cross makeshift bridges that would have been impossible for a heavier tank like the M4 Sherman. More importantly, its opposition was completely different. Instead of high-velocity German panzers, The Stuart faced small, thinly armored Japanese tanks, like the Type 95 Heigo. Against these opponents, the Stuart's 37mm gun was devastatingly effective, and its armor was more than adequate. It became a mobile pillbox used to support infantry, destroy Japanese machine gun nests with canister shot, and hunt down the inferior Japanese tanks. In the brutal, close-quarters fighting of the Pacific Islands, the little Stuart was a war winner. The Stuart's global journey didn't end there. As part of the massive Lend-Lease program, over 1,600 M3s were sent to the Soviet Union to help in the desperate fight against Germany on the Eastern Front. The Red Army's assessment of the Stuart, which they simply called the M3 Light, was brutally pragmatic and reveals much about the differences in doctrine. Soviet tankers, accustomed to the thick, sloped armor of their T-34, were highly critical of the Stuart's thin, riveted armor and its high profile. They also found the 37mm gun to be completely inadequate against German panzers by 1942. However, they praised what the British had praised: its incredible reliability. The quality of its engine and transmission was far superior to what the Soviets were producing in the early war years. While they quickly relegated it from frontline tank combat, the Red Army found the Stuart to be an excellent vehicle for reconnaissance, convoy escort, and scouting, roles where its speed and dependability were paramount. By 1944 and the invasion of Normandy, the M3 Stuart and its upgraded successor, the M5, were completely obsolete as frontline fighting tanks in Europe. The proliferation of the German Panther, the Tiger, and powerful long-barreled 75mm anti-tank guns meant that the Stuart's armor was useless, and its 37mm gun was little more than a pea shooter. The Stuart's role officially changed. It was formally reclassified from a light tank to a reconnaissance vehicle. It was used to scout ahead of the main armored columns, using its speed to find the enemy, and then quickly retreat before engaging. It was a dangerous job, and Stuart losses were high, but it was a vital one. The little tank was simply no longer a brawler. It was a scout. So, what is the final verdict on the M3 Stuart? It was never the best tank on the battlefield. Its gun was too small, its armor too thin. But those weaknesses miss the point of the Stuart's real contribution. The M3 Stuart's legacy is one of rugged, dependable utility. At a time when the Allies were on the back foot, it was a good enough tank that could be produced in massive numbers and, crucially, would not break down in the field. It was the right tool, at the right time, and it was everywhere. It plugged critical gaps in the British lines in Africa, gave American Marines the armored support they needed in the Pacific, and provided the Red Army with a reliable scout on the Eastern Front. The M3 Stuart didn't win the war by outfighting the Panthers and Tigers. It won by being the tough little tank that showed up to every single fight. What are your thoughts on the M3 Stuart? Was it a hero or a liability? Let us know in the comments below. And for more deep dives into the machines of war, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell.